Today, I was shopping for lingerie when I ran into an old friend. She and I attended beauty college together but drifted apart when she graduated. I had not seen her in over 5 years. The last time we met was for coffee, and she told me about this incident that she observed at the salon she was working at. It seems that one of the salon's good clients would always come in at closing time. I think her business interests prevented an earlier appointment, and sometimes my friend Tony would stay and do a manicure or help with a perm if she was needed to help expedite the appointment. Everyone was ready to go home, including the client. This is the story she told me. This client, whose name is Lori, sometimes brings her young son with her to her appointment. I think she was picking him up from daycare on her way home from work. At the time of this event, Timmy was 8 or maybe 9 years old. This evening he was especially rambunctious and was running around the salon. There were only me, Lori and Maddie, her stylist, and Timmy, but after a while it grated on everyone's nerves. I had given Lori a manicure while her hair was drying, and I was waiting for Maddie to finish her hair so we could leave. Well, Timmy is touching everything in the salon. When he got to the nail station, he was handling bottles of polish and dropped one. Fortunately, it didn't break, but Lori was at her wit's end and began to scold poor Timmy. I went over and picked up the bottle of red polish and tried to relieve the tension by teasing little Timmy, not in a way to embarrass him, but to ease his mother's rant. I'm glad she was in Maddie's chair with her hair only half done, or she might have spanked the poor child right there in front of us. Anyway, she says to him, "Timmy, shame on you. That nice girl makes her living with those items you are playing with. They are not toys. I have a mind to have her polish your nails so you would understand." I got the distinct sense that she was threatening him and was hoping to scare him into quieting down. But to the contrary, little Timmy started begging his mom to let me do his nails. "Please, Mom, please, Mom, please, Mom." I thought my head would explode. Over and over again he said the same thing. Finally, and I don't know what possessed me, but I just blurted out, "Oh, for goodness sakes, let me put a little polish on his nails." It got quiet in the salon. You could have heard a pin drop. Little Timmy is looking at me with his mouth open, and then he turned to his mother. "Please, Mama, please, please. Please, Mama, please, please." So Lori relents and says to me, "Do whatever the little monster wants." So I painted his nails a cute little girl pink, and he was completely enthralled. He smiled the entire time and never made a sound. After that, every time Lori came in, she requested that I do her nails. Before long, Timmy was getting a weekly manicure himself. It kept him quiet and it seemed harmless. As Timmy got older, I began to wonder if it was as harmless as I first thought. He was 12, I believe. The next time there was a turning point. It seems Timmy had been letting his hair grow, and it was the start of summer vacation. It now seems ridiculous that a 12-year-old boy would be accompanying his mother to the beauty salon, and even more so that he got his weekly manicure. Except for the occasional little goofing off when he asked me to put some blue polish on him so he could make his mother freak out, for the most part one used a nail hardener and maybe a little clear polish. His nails always looked good, especially for a 12-year-old boy, but they were healthy and he took good care of them. What's the harm? This particular evening his mother was urging him to get a haircut. "Timmy, summer is almost here and it is going to be hot this year. Wouldn't you like to have hair that would be cooler and not all sweaty?" I was putting his usual hardener on his nails and I was watching his reaction closely. Mom, I like it long. I don't want to cut it. It's taken a long time to get it this way and school is out, and..." Lori almost screamed. "I should have Tony give you a girl's style. If you want to go around with polish on your nails and long hair, maybe she can give you a perm so it doesn't look so raggedy all the time." It was obvious Lori was trying to humiliate him into cutting his hair, but again she chose the wrong avenue. Timmy looked up at me with those big green eyes and said, "Would you give me a proper hair trim? Would you, Tony?" Well, I truly didn't know what to say. I really didn't want to be caught in their mother-son ordeal. I looked at Lori in Maddie's chair and she just sort of indicated she had given up. "Do what he wants. Just keep it neat looking. I turned to Timmy and said, "Okay, Timmy, I'm through with your nails. Hop up into the chair by the sink and I'll wash your hair first." After I finished washing and conditioning his hair, which I must say is a lovely brown color with almost bronze natural highlights, very much like his mother's natural color, I moved him over to my styling chair where I put a cape over him and then looked at him and asked, "So Timmy, I'm just going to trim the split ends. I won't take much off. Unless you have something else in mind, of course." Timmy was looking at the large pictures of models with various hairstyles that adorned the opposite wall. "I like that one there," he said, pointing to a model with long straight hair and bangs cut straight across and coming down to her eyebrows. I wasn't sure what he was asking. "You mean the one with the straight black hair and the bangs?" "Yeah, that's the one." "Yes, she is very pretty. So, I'll just trim up." Timmy's face dropped. "You can't make my hair like that? Is it because it's a girl's hair?" "Well, Timmy, it is a girl's style. Is that what you really want?" I looked over at Lori and Maddie, who had ceased their conversation and were watching intently. Timmy looked at his mother and then back at me. "I think I would like it if you could. I mean, if you think it's okay." He was obviously concerned about what I thought. He didn't seem to care what his mother thought, just me. It really put me in a pickle and I wasn't sure what to do. "I guess I could do a boy version. What do you think?" I asked, looking first at Timmy and then Lori. Lori looked away. I think she was kind of embarrassed. "I know you can fix it so it will look good. Please, Tony, could you do that?" Timmy was really pleading and my heart went out to the boy. So for the last 2 years he has kept his hairstyle, which seems to have gotten a little more feminine as we go. I certainly haven't purposely feminized it, and I don't know if he's doing something between appointments, but it definitely has gotten feminine looking. That brings me to my dilemma. Lori called me last week and told me that she caught him in her makeup. He was wearing lipstick and attempting to put on mascara when she walked in on him. She says it was traumatic for the both of them. Since Timmy's father is out of the picture, Lori is fearful that he hasn't spent enough time with males. She thinks he is just confused, but she isn't sure how to proceed. A friend of hers told her that she should just dress him up like a girl and bring him to the mall in front of kids his own age. Shock him into realizing he is a boy and not a girl, like ripping a band-aid off quickly, all at once to get the pain over with. She asked what I thought and I said I thought that a bad idea. "Well, what about just making him up so he can see how ridiculous it looks?" Lori asked me. Again, I didn't want to get involved, but I said that I thought that would be a lot less harmful to him if she did it in private. "Oh, I could never do it. He is my son. I was hoping that you might agree to fix him up sometime." What could I say? So I told her I would think about it and call her back. "So this is where you come in, Robin. I thought that maybe I could bring him around to your salon one evening and you might agree to do him up and then everyone can move on. The reason I am asking you this is because I know you are sensitive to these kinds of situations, and if we do it at your salon it won't tarnish Timmy and Lori as much as if it was done at our place where everyone knows them. Even after hours it could be risky." Lori asked if I would do it at her house, but I really don't want to get more involved and familiar than I already am. "What about it, Robin? Will you do it?" Of course I said yes. The makeover since prom and graduation were over, business had slowed to a reasonable pace. We agreed to do the makeover on Timmy on a Saturday evening. It was June 4th, after I closed early at 7 p.m. rather than the usual 8 o'clock Saturday hours. Tony agreed to be there to help me and to make Timmy feel more comfortable, also to intervene if Lori and Timmy got into it again. I had just finished putting the day's business to rest and Tony had set up the nail kit at my manicure station, the kit she brought, and was in the back washing her hands. I looked up and saw a woman and what looked like a teenage girl or androgynous boy knocking at the glass front door of the salon. I opened the door and said, "You must be Lori, and this must be Timmy?" The woman looked me up and down and responded, "Yes, I am Lori Carmichael and this is my son Timmy. We are here to allow Timmy a real makeover so he can see what he looks like. Lori was holding a garment bag in addition to her purse, and Timmy was holding a large tote that had a large rose emblazoned on either side. I'm Robin, and this is my salon. I am pleased that Tony asked me to help, and Timmy, we are going to have some fun. I looked at Timmy and he seemed a bit nervous, so I smiled as warmly as I could. Tony! Lori and Timmy are here. Tony came back up front and hugged Timmy and shook hands with Lori. Now my understanding is that I am going to style Timmy's hair and do a makeover, and Tony will give him a manicure with nail extensions. Is that correct? I asked just to make sure everyone was in agreement. No one said anything about extensions. Well, if we are going to do this, we may as well go all the way. Let me think about it. Lori seemed reluctant to approve too much frou-frou. What do you have in the bag, Lori? Tony asked her. A little dress of mine that I never wear. It is really too young for me. I don't know what I was thinking when I bought it, said Lori, taking the dress from the garment bag. Tony recognized the dress from having seen Lori wearing it. I remember that dress, oh, and I remember why you bought it. You came in wearing it one evening to have your nails done for a date you had. I believe it was a man from your office. Am I mistaken? Lori looked at Timmy and blushed. No, I believe you're right. Then, in an attempt to change the subject, she continued. Anyway, I don't wear it anymore, and I want Timmy to have the full image of what he looks like as a female, so I brought it for him to wear. We are pretty close to the same size, and we can at least try it. As an afterthought, she reached and took the tote from Timmy. She reached in the tote and pulled out a pair of beige pumps that matched the dress. They appeared to have between 3 and 4-inch heels. She set them off to the side and reached in again and pulled out a cute little nude-colored bra. It was very delicate looking, with lots of lace and a cute little ribbon detail between the cups. I assumed it was part of the package she had worn for her date with the man she was apparently taken with. As she held up the bra for us to see, I looked at Timmy to see his reaction. His eyes were open so wide I thought his eyeball might fall out of their sockets. Timmy is wearing panties and pantyhose already. Should he dress before we start? Asked Lori. No, I think we should do the makeover first, and then when he dresses, he will already look and feel like a girl. I responded. I could tell Timmy was very excited. Timmy, come with me to the dressing room in back and take off your hose. I will give you a smock to wear, and you can remove your t-shirt and jeans as well. Timmy looked a little disappointed over having to remove his hose until Tony explained she was going to give him a pedicure as well as a manicure. He brightened up at that prospect. While Tony and Timmy were in the back, I spoke with Lori. Lori, I know this is difficult for you. Tony has told me that things have been leading up to this for quite a while. I have a good bit of experience with this type of thing, and I can assure you that all will be fine. Oh, Robin, I hope so. If he could just see that this isn't normal, maybe seeing himself dressed completely like a girl, he will give up and just be my son. Lori, I will be honest with you. He might react like you hope, but he might also like it and be captivated with the image he sees. It is a possibility. I told her. Lori seemed a bit shaken when I told her he might want to continue of a path of feminization. I know, Robin, I have thought of that, but I have to know so we can move forward either way. Tony and Timmy returned, and we decided that after washing and conditioning his hair I would shape it up a bit and then set it. I suggested a perm, but Lori would not agree, to Timmy's obvious chagrin. Tony would do his pedicure while I worked on his hair, and then she would do his manicure when he was under the dryer. Tony did the honors and washed and conditioned his lovely long hair. Tony was correct about the lovely color, and he came in wearing it perfectly straight down to his shoulders and all one length. He still wore the bangs, but they were kind of brushed to one side. When I got him in my chair, I sat in front of him for a few minutes and talked about what I was going to do. Lori, if you don't mind, I think we should give Timmy a different name, just for tonight. She nodded okay, and I looked at Timmy. Timmy, do you have a girl's name you would like to use? He started to say something, then he just nodded no. How about Missy? I have a niece named Missy and you kind of remind me of her. He smiled broadly and was clearly happy with the name. Okay. Now Missy, I am going to shape up the style you have now and set it on rollers so that we can give it a little pizzazz. We don't have enough time to add highlights, but I think you will love what I have in mind. Now just sit back and enjoy while we make you beautiful. He sighed in relief and in anticipation. I looked at Lori and she seemed a bit nervous, but resigned to follow through. I didn't trim much as he already had a feminine head of hair. I began setting his hair on large rollers because I wanted to keep the sleek look he was accustomed to, but which would allow me to get some fullness and maybe a few girly twists into it. I knew the process would be as important to him as the end result. As I rolled the first few curlers, I could feel him tremble in the chair. I surveyed his fine facial features as I worked. He had nice full cheeks, which was a little surprising being that he had such high and deliberate cheekbones. The two together are not that common, but are certainly a cosmetician's playground. His green eyes were graced with long dark lashes and a slight eyebrow that would have looked appropriate on a young girl his age. I looked closely and I could tell they had not been plucked or waxed, they were just naturally feminine looking. As I worked, Tony was doing his toenails. When she was ready to polish them, she looked up at me. "What color do you think, Robin?" "Pink?" she asked me. Since this is a one-off, I was thinking something more mature, something an 18-year-old might wear on a date. A dark red might be perfect for what I had in mind. After all, his dress is a bit mature as well and we want to present a consistent image. As we talked, I watched Missy breathing in the smell of the polish as Tony began to stroke his toenails with a crimson polish with dark undertones. When I had his head about half full with curlers, Missy began to squirm around in the chair. Tony had completed his pedicure and was outside smoking a cigarette with Lori. I asked Missy if she was uncomfortable. "Oh no, Miss Robin, but I have to go to the bathroom really bad," he told me. "Okay, Missy. I think it is time for a break. Tony showed you where the dressing rooms are and the bathroom is right across the hall from them. Why don't you do what you have to do and we'll pick back up in a few minutes." I removed his cape and I watched as he slipped along in the flip-flops we provide our pedicure clients. After stretching, I went to our kitchenette to get a cup of coffee. The coffee machine is at the door and the bathroom is adjacent to the kitchen. I swear I could hear him in there talking to himself in a high girly voice. I took my coffee and went outside to have a cigarette with Tony and Lori. As I walked up, I noticed they were deep in conversation that seemed of importance to Lori. "Hey Robin, how is it coming in there?" asked Tony. "Fine. Missy just needed a little girl's room break." As I said it, noticed Lori react to my calling her son Missy, and when I said the little girl's room, I thought she was going to say something, but she didn't. After my cigarette, we walked back in together just as Missy was coming back from the potty. Even in the flip-flops there was a girly sway to his hips, and when he turned and bent to sit in the chair, I caught a quick glimpse of his cute little bubble butt. Honestly, with his head half in rollers and with his smock and the crimson toenails on display, he didn't need makeup to look the epitome of a female. I looked at Lori and she saw it too. "All right, young lady, this is the final lap. We will be on to your makeup in just a little bit, so what do you think so far?" I asked Missy. "Oh, Miss Robin, it is wonderful. I know it seems I am nervous, but really it is just excitement. I have watched Mother have all this done to her and she is so beautiful. I always wanted to look like her. Everybody has always said that there is a strong resemblance, except that I am a boy." Suddenly his face went from joyous to a resigned sadness. "Well, tonight you are going to look like twins," I said, trying to pick his spirits up. "Oh, I know, and I really appreciate all that you are doing for me." He was precious, as sincere as a preacher and as cute as a teen model. I finished up with the curlers, and as he stood in front of the mirror patting his head full of the cylinders of torture we subject ourselves to, just to look beautiful, he looked like a young housewife getting ready for a special occasion with her hubby. I think it was the crimson polish, but there was something else. I just couldn't put my finger on it. I settled him under a dryer and gave him a Marie Claire to look through while he waited. I explained that he should set the magazine in his lap and turn the pages with one hand while Tony did his nails on the other hand. I also said that he might have to wait to finish any article he was reading after Tony finished the first hand and went to the next. It was not worth smudging the polish to finish an article he could read any other time. I lowered the dryer and turned it on and left him to his Marie Claire while Tony began on his fingernails. I had looked at his nails and Tony was right, he took very good care of them. If my math is correct, he should be 14 now. Not many 14-year-olds have nails as nice as his, no boys anyhow. Because of the condition of his nails, all Tony did was to strip off his old clear polish, prep the nail and add the extensions. Once in place securely, she put a new base coat on and then began polishing each nail with the precise stroke of a professional. They were both accustomed to Tony working on Missy's nails, so they both seemed relaxed and a little detached. It was a sight. Missy under the dryer with her Marie Claire and Tony concentrating on giving her nail extensions. That must have been what they were talking about outside when I joined Lori and Tony. 30 minutes later, Tony had just applied the last coat of the crimson polish to Missy's fingernails and sweet Missy was staring at them as though they were diamonds. Well, they did sparkle and reflect the light like diamonds, so his reaction was understandable. I checked Missy's hair and it was dry enough to move on to makeup. It was getting late and even though I was energized with helping Missy look pretty, I was getting a little tired on my feet. It had been a long day. I love your nails, Missy, they are gorgeous. Tony is a real artist. I looked at Missy and then at Tony and they were equally proud of the results. I looked to Lori. Don't you think so, Lori? I asked. Lori, staring at her son's pretty and feminine red nails, looked up, as if startled from sleep. Oh yes, they are lovely, Tony. Then she looked at Missy/Timmy and I saw her spirit relent. It was impossible not to see how much Missy enjoyed being a girl and Lori could not deny what her eyes could clearly see. I began the makeup with a cleansing and then moisturizing, explaining what and why I was doing everything, talking to Missy like she were a real girl. I noticed that Lori was now participating and seemed to be having as much fun as Missy. You have beautiful skin, Missy. All I am going to use is a sheer foundation base. Normally we girls use foundation to cover irregularities in our skin tone, but you really don't have any. Still, it will give a nice texture and a palette on which to work. As I spread the whipped foundation onto her skin and blended it with a sponge, I wondered how Lori would react when she saw my finished product. After having set the foundation with a light powdering, I used a pencil to define her brows. As I said before, she has nice feminine brows, so I just filled in a little and then extended them out a little, coming to a point a little past the corner of her eyes. Then I used gel eyeliner in black, I think it was called Midnight Rendezvous. I applied it to look like the eyeliner Katy Perry is wearing in her second video. I think it is the second, but don't hold me to that. Anyway, I used a kohl pencil on her lower inner lash line and then used the kohl pencil to accentuate the corners, smudging a little both at the bottom and top. It gave her a smoky look that helped to disguise that she was only 14. You see how I blended here in the crease? That gives your eyes depth, and you can use this technique to widen or narrow your eyes slightly. Here I am making them look as wide as I can. As I spoke, I noticed that Lori was paying as much attention to me as was her son Missy. Now normally, I would never use a shadow that shimmers unless I was going out to a club or for a fancy date. Tonight I am going to make an exception for you, sweetheart. I want to see what you would look like if you were going on a date. Missy seemed to sit up a little straighter when I mentioned a date, and I noticed that Lori leaned in a little to catch what I was saying. All right. Your eyes are done and they are beautiful and sexy if I say so myself. Lori kind of looked at me with a frown and I added. Of course, young ladies don't normally get to look sexy until they get a little older. I was just thinking how much older you look. Missy beamed and Lori looked satisfied. I worked the blush to complement her high cheekbones and then put a puff of red right on the flush apples of her cheeks. She looked ready for the runway if I do say so myself. Missy, we are going to wait and put your lipstick on when we've finished dressing you, okay? I've got a perfect red that will make you weak in the knees. Of course we all knew he couldn't be any weaker in the knees than he already was, not and continue standing. Is his dress pullover or will he step into it? I asked Lori. The back unbuttons to the waist and back. She paused. She can step into it, replied Lori. Okay. Then I'll do your hair now. As I unrolled the curlers I checked and his hair was now completely dry. The setting lotion I had used without consulting Lori had done its job and the body created from the curlers was strong and it had bounced to it. Again, this look is a bit old for you, Missy. But with your mother's dress, the heels, and all I thought it would be appropriate. It could be worn on the date we spoke about a while ago. I looked at Lori and I saw no change of expression. As each roller was removed, the anticipation and excitement that both Missy and Lori exhibited told me this had been a good idea. I finished smoothing out the hair and turned her toward the mirror so she could see the whole package. At first I thought she was disappointed because she didn't say anything or have any expression on her face. Finally she turned to me. Oh, Miss Robin, I can't believe it, is it really me? She was turning this way and that as she spoke, admiring the young woman looking back. Her pretty white teeth begged for red lips, but I resisted. I wanted adding the lipstick to be the cherry on top. Let's get you dressed. Lori, would you like to be the one, or Tony, or I could help her? I asked Lori. Yes, thank you. I believe I would like to help her. Lori had used her in referring to her son Missy. Interesting turn of events. Tony and I stood outside and smoked a cigarette and talked about the makeover and how we felt it had been a success. As we walked back in, Lori was escorting Missy back up front. Missy looked a little unsure of herself in the high heels, but she seemed to improve from the back of the salon to the front. The beige open-toed pumps turned out to be 3 3/4 heels, and I am amazed that Missy could handle them so easily. Apparently, Lori had the same notion and had initially assumed that Timmy would give up and not try the heels. Again, she miscalculated. Not only did Missy look comfortable in her heels, she began to strut, posing like a shoe model might, hand on hip, far away look on her face with her shoulders brought forward in a manner that cries out girl. He really camped it up a bit. Lori was laughing and clapping, the same as Tony and I. I walked Missy over to the large mirror and handed her the crimson lipstick I intended her to use. I stood beside and slightly behind her watching in the mirror and as I explained the correct application of lipstick. It was a slow and deliberate lesson and she was focused on accomplishing it with expert precision. After lining with a lip pencil for her, I removed the cap from the creamy stick of women's seduction and I slowly rolled it up to a proper height for use and then handed to Missy. Her hands were shaking a little as she reached for the case, but when it touched her fingers she steadied like a rock. She confidently pulled the red delight across first her top then bottom lips. She pursed them together gently. I am sure she learned that from watching her mother. It was too practiced for this inexperienced boy/girl. She expertly used a tissue to blot and then added a second coat. The lipstick is an expensive brand that it worth the money. It is a long-lasting lipstick, it claims 18 hours, but 10 is realistic. What I like most about it is that you don't have to keep glossing to give it shine or moisturize. It is truly all-in-one and one touch-up over the course of drinks at a party is sufficient to keep your lips looking soft and full. Missy's lips made me nervous. She was so pretty and those lips were so kissable I had to keep refocusing on the fact that she was only 14 and still a child in so many ways. She just didn't look like a child. As we stared in the mirror, I saw she was smiling like she had just been asked to her first prom. I looked over to see Lori's reaction and it looked as though she was crying. I asked, somewhat alarmed. Lori, are you all right? Lori looked at her new daughter, standing in the heels with the flippy pleated skirt of the dress resting at mid-thigh. The top was sleeveless and accented Missy's narrow shoulders. They seemed so much narrower with the well-tailored, high-neck collar and open shoulders than they did in his tee. It was cream-colored beige with lace accents at the top of the collar and again at the hem of the skirt. Definitely dressy and appropriate for a night on the town for some young woman. Lace on the hem of a pleated skirt really results in a frou-frou effect, and I wondered just how much of a girly girl Lori might be. "I'm fine, Robin. It's just that in that dress she looks just like I did when I was her age," except everyone in the room leaned in to hear what she would say. "Except that she is more beautiful than I ever was." The air became lighter, or at least it felt that way. Tony was smiling like the cat that ate the canary. Lori and Missy were hugging as mother and daughter, and I was feeling satisfied, and if you want the truth, a little horny. But that is a story for a different night. After congratulations to everyone, I closed up and Tony and I went clubbing. We watched as mother and daughter crossing the parking lot, the familiar tapping of heels on the concrete, arm in arm. I wondered how their evening might evolve. Would they go out for dinner? It was late, but there would be nice restaurants open to accommodate the weekend party crowd. Maybe they just picked up a pizza on the way home and then talked all night about what has happened. I don't know what happened, but I am confident that sweet Missy slept in a pretty nightgown. Oh, can you imagine the dreams she must have had? And what about her mother Lori? What would she do, and how would she cope with the difficulties of having a son who wants to look like a girl? She told herself that this would be a perfect time to have the talk about the birds and the bees and see which he preferred, the bees who are the boys or the birds who are the girls. I guess I'll never know, unless of course, they come in for a mother-daughter makeover sometime. I'd love to add some copper highlights to their hair. I did tell you that they have the same color hair, didn't I? Well, that is what Tony told me and what I experienced myself. Life is full of gray, and by gray I mean a rainbow of color, and should not be forced to choose black or white to give allegiance to. I hope that we can all be like Lori and open to the realities around us. I have to remember to email Tony and ask her to send me email updates on Missy and Lori's progress. I wonder if they ever have mother-daughter appointments at Tony's salon. I can't wait until she responds with the newest stories. I hope you sleep well tonight and have dreams that carry you to mysterious and exciting places. I hope your dreams result in an evolution of spirit that brings comfort through the difficult times. Night, night.